Benoist, and you're listening to Supergirl Radio.
I think the CW are just trying to win the time slot war with Supergirl Radio.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Is Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. It's so fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series and the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired to discuss and review the Supergirl Season 6 episode titled Prom Night. And I'm in a different location, so I should probably explain that. I don't know how many people have been checking out my Instagram, but I am actually in Hawaii this week. So I'm actually live from Hawaii. You can't tell because I'm in a hotel room. I try.
You can see the lei, right?
I thought this was fitting. Got this at a luau from the other night. I tried to get a beachy background so that everybody could see it. But there's like an overlook that goes over the pool, and you could see the beach and the waterfront. It's noisy up there. They play music all day. I couldn't do that. I couldn't go down by the water because I couldn't get my Wi-Fi to connect. I tried different places around the resort, and I was like, I don't have my external charger. I forgot to bring it. I can't use my phone. I can't charge my laptop. So
you should have brought your green screen and then taken one of your Instagram pictures and just put it behind you.
I should have. It's big. So I'm actually using a different microphone. I borrowed my brother's Snowball microphone because it's small and transportable instead of using my microphone stand, which would take up a lot of space in my suitcase. But anyway, so I'm here from Hawaii, and I'm glad to be talking about Supergirl. Lots to talk about, lots of timey-wimey time travel and going back in time. So I will say that if you're like, Rebecca, I don't believe you. I don't believe that you're in Hawaii. I just thought I would show a few pictures just to confirm that this is where I am. So the other night I went to a luau, so you can see the guy with the fire stick there. Very cool. First time I'd ever done that. I have a lot of questions now. I want to do a lot of research on the culture. So it's very cool. And the second picture on the right of this overlay is a volcano out in the distance. So actually, so I went to my first luau, saw my first volcano. So that's exciting.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Pretty good. So this is the view. This is the view that I wanted to have as my background.
It's beautiful. Now take a snapshot of that view and in your mind's eye, superimpose Rebecca over it.
That's where I want it to be.
Beautiful beaches and oceans. And that's where Rebecca is. When she steps outside, that's what she sees.
So I hope I didn't make everybody too jealous, but I just wanted to confirm I am in a different location this week. So enjoy that. Okay, so maybe we should start talking about something that we all came to talk about, which is Supergirl.
Not your vacation?
Not my vacation. So let's.
What if we just trick them into like a slideshow of all your vacation pictures? Like with like time of your life, like playing over it.
They would be so bored because I take 10,000 pictures. So let's talk about Supergirl, since that is what we are here to talk about. And so here is the official description for the season 6 episode titled Prom Night! They got to get that in there. So it's more like Prom Night.
Prom Night.
So here's the official description. Quote, Nia and Brainy attempt to save Supergirl from the Phantom Zone by time traveling back to Kara's home in 2009. While determined to secure the item needed to help Supergirl, Brainy is worried about keeping a low profile so as not to alter the future timeline. However, when their ship crashes upon arrival, a young Kara Danvers, guest star as Isabella Vidovich, is the first on the scene. Meanwhile, a young reporter named Kat Grant, actually CJ Grant, I do believe that's how she introduced herself.
Yeah.
Guest star Eliza Helms sets her sights on Midvale as she suspects there is a big story in the small town, unquote. Morgan, I know we talked with Dr. Nicole Green last week about some sciencey things, and she tweeted us, I think the next day, about the time travel shenanigans with a really, really good point that I thought we should talk about. She basically tweeted, if we are going to risk the timeline to collect Kara's DNA, why not go back and make sure Kara isn't sent to the Phantom Zone in the first place?
I mean, so I think that's sort of always the problem, right? Like, because Supergirl itself did this. They did this very thing in season 3, where she knew, she knew from her friend Barry, don't go all the way back because you're going to mess stuff up.
You're going to screw something up.
You're going to screw something up. Go back like 15 seconds and then just fix the one small thing that you need to fix. But I guess she's in the Phantom Zone. She's not being consulted on this, right? They're not consulting her. And so we have going back to 2009, the time period of Flossie, apparently. the flossiest time period, right after the big recession.
So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Why wouldn't you just go back 15 seconds before Lex Luthor puts her in the Phantom Zone
and just slap that thing out of his hands?
So much fun.
Wait, we can go back in time, but we're not choosing the obvious solution. We're going all the way back to 2009 to go to prom instead of just going back like 2 days ago and slapping a thing out of Lex's hands.
I mean, granted, that would be easier storytelling wise, but it wouldn't be as dramatic, I guess. And somebody really wanted
to wear a headband with a giant bow on it.
So I guess this is much more entertaining to go back to Kara's Midvale years or high school years, which they should have been doing this whole time. I don't know why they waited another 3 years for this.
I know. They have the perfect actresses that still kind of creep me out in how good they are at basically being little Melissa Benoist and little Kyler Lee. Like, I was like, okay, time has passed. Like, maybe they're going to seem less like the actresses. Somehow more.
Somehow
like, how?
More perfect.
What witchcraft is this? I think somebody went back in time to get some DNA.
Yeah. So apparently Nicole said someone on Twitter pointed out that correcting Nia's jammed gun was a key moment. So I guess instead of bonking Lex, you would have to fix that first. Still very doable.
There's a couple of key moments I feel like you could have gone back to that weren't 10 years ago and involved like going back to high school. But, one way is definitely more fun.
I mean, just work smarter, not harder. I don't know why they're going through this whole process. But I guess we have to talk about it since it is the story that they are wanting to tell. So because of that, what did you think about Brainy and Nia's trip back to 2009? Do you think they did a good job of keeping that low profile?
They did not. No, no. They tried, but they immediately failed, which is amazing. Like, as soon as they landed, they failed. Like, here we are. First off, we landed in the wrong time. Why can't Brainy operate that time travel device? Like, why can't he point that thing in the right direction? He's always going to the wrong area.
This is not his first rodeo. He's a member of the Legion of Superheroes. Their whole thing is that they time travel.
He did not pay attention at all during the training, is I think the thing. He was like, listen, I'm a 12th level intellect. I don't need this training. But you did. But you did, Brainy.
You did.
Because he's always off. And I like that they did the lampshade on it by being like, oh, I'm really worried I'm going to be off again. It's like, well, you were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you should have tried harder.
What did you think about their aliases that they chose? Brandon and Brenda. Was that
a call to anything, or is it just weird?
I think it's a 90210 reference.
Oh my God. Well, this is my confusion, right? Because I don't think that I feel like what was 2009 in their imaginations? Because
it definitely wasn't 90210. I feel like that ended a long time before that. I need to look that up.
I mean, they rebooted it at some point. Maybe they're throwing back to the reboot of 90210, but that still doesn't make sense. Like 90210 was sometime in the 90s, right? I was very small when it was on.
Yes, like early 90s, I feel like.
I remember those fashions, and those were not in the 2000s.
I cannot believe I'm having to do research
it was a lot of like
90210.
high-waisted acid wash jeans and
it definitely was. I'll pull up the
feathered
poster
bangs.
here. Let's see if I can pull up the 90210 poster that's on IMDb just so you can see it. Hang on a second. Because it's exactly what you thought it was.
Because I feel like they were like, oh, it's fun. They're going back to high school, but like they're going back in 2009. Like if they wanted to do a call out to a high school show, you've got like Gossip Girl, I guess.
Or yeah,
I guess Smallville was technically still on the air.
but I think he was out of high school.
Look at how high those jeans are. My God. My God.
Exactly as you remembered. And it looks like it started in 1990.
So many bangs.
It went for 10 seasons, so maybe it was still that would have put it around 2000.
Would still only put it around 2000. 10 years later is where this takes place. So
I don't know. It was somebody must on the writing staff just might be a fan of 90210, but I'm pretty sure that was what that was.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I was like, is the name thing like a call out to something in the comics? Is there a Brandon and a Brenda in the comics, or?
No, I think it's a 90210. So the 90210 reboot, let me pull up that comment, was from 2008 to 2013. So
were there a Brandon and a Brenda in the reboot?
Maybe they guest starred.
They're like, don't call it a remix.
So it's just very strange. Why wouldn't you pick something that's more like in that time period?
Yeah, like
fresh from that time period.
I hate to harp on the Gossip Girl thing, but like that was like the teen show that was getting all the press back in like 2008, 2009. Like if you're throwing it back to 2008, 2009, like why not call them like Chuck and Blair or Serena and Dan or something? Like if you're trying to throw it back to like a teen show of that time period, like why are you in the 90s? Like what time do you what was 2009 in your experience? It's much different in mine.
Let's see. Ellis Carton said 2009 was Vampire Diaries and Glee. They could have Glee would have been a great
one because Melissa Benoist comes from Glee. So call somebody Rachel and somebody Finn. Like there you go.
It just didn't seem totally accurate for the time period. And to your Gossip Girl point, Miss Fiction Fanatic says, and Gossip Girl was on the CW.
The very same network this one's on. I don't understand.
They didn't really think that through.
They dropped the flossy as a term that came from that time period. Did it? But like the Gossip Girl played that song all the time. That like the glamorous song where the flossy came from. But and yet you pick 90210 from the 90s.
The only reason I know about that flossy Gossip Girl thing is because I saw you retweet something recently about it.
I feel like it's 100% fake, but there was something going around on Twitter that was that Fergie glamorous song and like the most cheesy like early 2000s like opening credits with all the cast of Gossip Girl where they're like tossing their head and looking at the camera.
It was great.
So that was fresh in my mind too, because I had just seen it. And so I was like, Flossie, though, really? No one said it. It was just in a song, one song.
Emma mentions they did mention Brainy joining Glee Club. Why there's no true. Glee connection. So that was very strange.
Also, I want to point out that Elektra WWF said, "Was up." Also from the late 90s. All those references was like, I just kept going, when do you think 2009 was? Are they going to have like where's the beef joke now? Like what time period is this?
Is in your mind, is this worse than Wonder Woman 1984 playing up the time period?
I think it is, because I got the very impression that was at least in the 80s. Like they were in a mall, everyone was wearing neon, there were fanny packs and like 80s fashion. It wasn't like as 80s as I would have went, and there was no great 80s music, which was inexplicable, but at least I understood just at a glance, this is the 80s. I had no idea what time period this was supposed to be. I was like, it says 2009, but is it? Is it?
So yeah, that was questionable. But other than that, other than the alias that was from the 90s, from the great hit classic TV show Beverly Hills 90210,
a classic,
a classic. How did you think Brady and Nia did? I mean, they did have quite the adventure.
They tried really hard to not affect the timeline, but Brady in particular, I think, did a poor job of it. I felt like Nia was really giving it the old college try, but Brady like immediately was like, I must snack, and therefore I'm just going to go out and join every club at this school. No one's going to think that's weird. No one's going to question, wait a minute, who are you? They're just going to put you on the baseball team and the glee club and the mathletes. And it's like, listen, you don't have to brag that you're a triple threat, okay? You don't have to brag that you can sing and do math and also physical activity. I believe it. I believe it. Good for you, Brady. Good for you. But it does seem a little risky in this scenario to be joining so many clubs in such a short amount of time. Even Kenny Lee was like, brah, should you be doing this?
Is he going to be in the yearbook? Do you think they took his picture?
He's going to be all over the yearbook. That's my Kara's going to come back from the Phantom Zone, and she's just going to be idly flipping through her yearbook, and she's going to be like, Brainy, how are you in all of these, like every page he's going to be in one of the clubs posing like, hey, me.
Yeah, Nia didn't get involved in the high school activities, so I don't know why he felt like he had to. Like, you can say no. You can say no. I don't want to join the Glee Club.
Miss Fiction Fanatic says no one questioned how Brainy looked too old to be in high school. No, they didn't. And like Jesse Rapp looks like a younger guy, but like if I saw him in a high school, I'd say, "Sir, what are you doing here? Are you picking someone up? Are you someone's brother?"
Yeah, so Brainy seemed to go all in on the Midvale High School experience, and then Nia. Most of what Nia did was showcase her powers a lot. I don't know if you noticed that. She buried the ship, the Legion cruiser. She unlocked the thing where the geologic thing was broken and stole.
Yeah.
There was a lot of dream energy powers.
There was a lot of dream powers, and I liked that she was like talking to little Kara, and she was like, "Let me show you how I use my power. Do you want me to tell you how my powers work?" And I said, "My God, yes." Tell me something about how your powers work. But I thought that was great when she showed her like the bubble, and then Kara was like, "Let me show you how my powers work." And it's like, oh man, I thought that was so cute where Kara was like, finally someone like me. Let's show and tell with our powers.
Yeah, it was cute, but it was also kind of frustrating for me because when they hid the cruiser in the baseball field, why did they even need Kara there?
So I guess I thought overall this episode, I really enjoyed it. I had fun the whole time. I did a couple of times just think like, it feels like some of this fun stuff is sort of at the expense of like Kara having cool moments, like I understand, like, you know, Nia is now experienced, right? She's been on the super team for a couple of years. We're meeting Kara at like 16, 17 years old. She's really young. She hasn't started superheroing yet. So having Nia tell Kara like what to do makes sense. But on the flip side, it's like, can't Kara just like catch a just catch a story break for a second. Like, she could have hid that spaceship all by herself. She is Supergirl. She has the heat vision, the super strength, and the ability to hide things.
One of the things she does a lot in the Silver Age of Supergirl comics is she digs underground. So I thought for sure they would have her super digging, but they didn't. So I was a little frustrated by that.
I felt like they relied on Nia's powers a couple of times when it seemed like the more natural fit would have been Supergirl's powers or would have been Kara's powers. And so I thought that was a little strange and kind of speaks to the thing that we always complain about, right? Which is it's her show, but is it really her show? And so I kind of hoped for a little bit more Kara from this flashback episode. I mean, they don't have the excuse that like Melissa Benoist is out on maternity, because this is a whole different actress.
Yeah. This is a different person.
It could be the Kara Danvers show. Melissa's not even involved. And still this episode felt like it was way more Brainy and Nia-centric, which I don't necessarily mind. I like both of them as characters, and I thought this was actually a really good character, like, centric spotlight on both of them, and like really brought up things that we've talked about with both of their characters, particularly Nia, like finally getting back to like that family trauma that like she experienced and then never kind of never got to talk about again on the show. It's like, how are you doing with all that thing where your mom got bit by a spider and died right in front of you? Are you okay with that? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. It's like, are you though, girl? Are you? So this episode, when like the moment, I thought it was very poignant when that moment when she realizes, oh no, I'm back in 2009, and like looks at the phone like, I could just call my mom. And I thought that moment was like really powerful. And that moment when she does call and listens to the voicemail and hears her mom's voice, I thought that kind of stuff was really touching. It was like really good stuff to explore with Nia. Whenever they explore her dream powers as they relate to her dreaming the future and having to interpret those dreams, I'm always super interested. It's the more nebulous aspects of her powers that kind of lose me, when it just seems like she can do whatever, whenever the story needs her to.
Yeah, I am very conflicted on that, because I think that the dream powers are cool, but if you overuse them too much, then she becomes overpowered, which is very frustrating for me. But I did think that the idea that she found out that she could call her mom was a good storytelling point for her, because if you could do that, like if you did go travel back in time and you did realize that would be really tempting for her to do. So I thought it was interesting that they sort of played with it, but they didn't have her go all the way. She didn't actually make contact. So I thought that was a good thing for her character.
And I thought it was like way more understandable as in terms of like potentially messing up the timeline than Brainy deciding to join every club in school, despite that being very funny. It's like one of these things makes a little bit more sense as far as being tempting, and the other one is like, and just the baseball team, they just let you on. They just decided to let you play like that very same day.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the baseball team, he probably was able to use his knowledge, the physics of how the ball would connect with the bat. He was probably good at baseball. It's probably why they
he was like,
him on.
Sports? What a concept.
So I did think that some of the Brainy and Nia stuff was good. I just, sometimes when I see Dreamer doing all that stuff with her powers, I'm like, she is so overpowered. She's more powerful than Kara. Why do you even need Supergirl? So
and
that's
I feel like,
kind of where I am with it.
I agree. And I feel like I'm not even opposed to all of her dream powers. I just wish that we had had a natural progression of seeing her powers develop in a more like slow and organic way, where like one power kind of developed on top of another power. The way that we got it was like, okay, for a while she was just falling asleep at her desk and dreaming things, and then all of a sudden she's stopping a tsunami, and there was very little time in between those two things. They had like one, she basically learned most of her stuff, I believe, off screen, where most of the action on the show happens.
Yeah, so I'm glad that she's mastered it now. It seems like she's the only thing she's struggling with. She does have a flaw is that she still has trouble interpreting dreams. So I'm glad they have that for her, that she still has to struggle with something. But it just sort of bothered me when I was like, well, Kara could hide that ship. She could do that too.
Like the first thing I thought when it was like all she did was like the heat vision, and then Dreamer was like, hold on, let me like pull the earth apart, like, oh, it's so hard. And I was like, she could just kind of burrow in real fast, in, make a big hole for you guys.
Well, I guess you needed the dream energy to put the earth back.
You gotta gently put the earth back with that dream energy.
Because that makes a whole lot of sense.
Sure, I'm on board.
So we had the brainy Nia aspects of the time travel back in 2009 when Beverly Hills 90210 was really popular.
My favorite time period.
my favorite TV show of the late 2000s.
Yeah, you remember 2009 when everyone was watching 90210 and saying "What's up?"
But then we also got to see young Kara and young Alex again, and Kenny Lee, surprisingly, is alive in this timeline. So, what did you think about their storyline?
I liked their storyline. I was confused with like, what is it like in their brains? Do you think? Because it does seem like they have both versions of the timeline in there, which seems like it would drive you insane. Like it seems like that should drive you mad in some way. And yet Alex was like, oh yeah, no. That was pre-crisis that he died. Post-crisis, both of these memories are running parallel in my mind, which has already been kind of wiped. And but it's okay. Don't think about how much brain trauma I have. I have these two different timelines of my whole life. But it's chill. It's chill. What's up? And you know what? This can explain 2009, right? Because this is the post-crisis version of 2009.
Oh, so maybe the original
90210.
Maybe the original 90210 was popular 2009. Not the maybe there was no remake. Maybe it just
there was no it just kept going. In this timeline, it starts in the 90s and it goes to like 2020.
They were in high school for a long time.
They just keep aging, but they're still in high school, and nobody points out that it's weird.
Yeah, so it is weird. Well, I'm at least glad that the show made a point to say, hey, remember 3 seasons ago when this happened? I mean, at least they remembered it. But it is continually baffling to me that they would, in the final season, erase things that have happened previously in the show. I get that they have crisis and they have the ability to do that, but there's no understanding of what an audience cares about. Like, we care about that Midvale episode. We care about season 3 and what happened. We're invested in this. And then when you say all that thing, those things that the moments you loved and the things that happened to your characters, they don't exist anymore. That doesn't matter anymore. It's like, well, what are we even doing here? Why am I even investing in this storyline?
It's just so strange. It's a strange choice to be like, we're unmaking the show. We're not going to tell you, but also in strategic ways that might be helpful to us some point down the line. So we don't want to pin down what's exactly different. We don't want to do that. We don't want to back ourselves into a corner where later we might want to undo that. So like, we just keep discovering things that are different. And we're like, wait, Kenny's alive? Kenny Lee is fine. He's cool. He's just making the Smallville barn out there, complete with the telescope.
There's nothing that Supergirl fans love more than erasing the hugely popular Midvale episode that everyone loves. So that's
now
definitely
it's like,
something we're excited
I guess now
about.
it's like a slightly different where he just like he lives. I don't know. Did the events in Midvale happen except that Kenny Lee survived, or did the events in Midvale never even happen at all?
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe they still had that issue with the sheriff, but instead of him dying, he just lived through that situation.
Yeah, he just like made it.
I guess. I don't know.
I also thought it was a little strange that Kenny Lee knows her secret and knows pretty much all about her, but doesn't know that Superman is her cousin.
That was weird.
Right? That seemed weird to you, right? I was
Yeah.
like, why tell him most of the stuff that is like kind of like, that you could be used against him or could be used against you, but not just like this one tidbit of information that doesn't seem like it's super relevant after I have powers, I'm an alien.
And also, what does that say about Kenny Lee's investigative skills that he can't connect the two powers being from the same kind of people?
Yeah. I mean, she has most of the same, like all the same powers as Clark does, Superman does. He must be like, wow, that's wild, man. Aliens.
he even knew that Superman had a fortress of solitude.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, connect the dots, Kenny.
He's like, I'm going to make you a fortress just like Superman back in this show that was maybe on in 2009. here's a barn. Do you want to go look at Lana Lang outside of in the telescope? It's like, she's like, no, not really. That was always creepy.
It was always creepy.
Always creepy.
So do you think Smallville existed in this timeline?
No, I don't know. What was on the CW in 2009 even? Apparently it wasn't Gossip Girl or Smallville. Post-crisis is blowing my mind.
Oh my gosh, so weird. So I'm interested in this Kenny Lee being alive now because they actually played up a really sweet like a romance subplot with him and young Kara. I thought, it's a little creepy about the bar and everything, but it was really nice. I mean,
it was nice.
He
found an abandoned barn and he strung up some party lights and put up some like Instagram looking photos. and I was like, listen, I'm not hating this. I like this. Like, that probably took him a long time to like clean out that barn to where it doesn't look like a murder palace. And he's like, look at this. I put some photos of us doing like superhero stuff over here. And then this is our thinking corner where we plan out our adventures. And it was really cute. I like the little the string of lights. He's like, that's just to be jaunty. And I thought it was such a cute little like a gesture because he's really into saving people. He's into the superheroing. He's very supportive of Kara's superhero passion, I think, and her budding heroism. I thought that was really interesting. It's also a different version of Kara, I feel like, that we've seen because here, when we were back in Midvale, the only people who knew about her secret were, her Eliza and Alex. And here she has her boyfriend. So she has one other person who knows about her powers and is supporting her and is kind of going on adventures with her. And I think that that's really nice to have her had back in high school, somebody who was in on the secret.
It sort of makes her storyline, though, from her high school years a little less I don't want to say full of turmoil or sad, but some of that isolation that she experienced kind of growing up where she had to connect with Streaky the Super Cat. I liked all of that. I liked that she was sort of the outsider trying to figure out her place in the world. And here she's like, I'm going to prom. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm ordering milkshakes and never drinking them. Those are things like normal teenagers do. So it doesn't feel like she had any kind of isolation issues, which I always thought was a really strong suit of Supergirl, that she could work through all of that. But I'm just very curious about Kenny Lee, because if you've noticed, we have yet another episode where William Day is not included in the storyline at all. He does not appear in the episode. I think this is maybe, episode 3, 4. So 3 episodes in a row, William Day, who is supposedly set up to be Kara's love interest.
And we are in the last season. Just kind of important to put that out there. Like, whoever is her love interest in this season, there's a chance that's the love interest she ends up with at the end of the show.
Yeah,
so it could be this guy.
I'm very curious. Are they abandoning the William thing, and are they bringing Kenny Lee back?
Well, I wondered that too, watching this episode, because Kenny Lee, she's clearly going to break his heart, in the next part of this 2-parter, and they're going to break up, and this is going to be why, even though it doesn't make any sense, because she can fly she's gone to like Paris to get Lena a croissant. So she can't croissant. So she can't like just automatically be in Midvale for their date nights and then just go back to like National City. Like of all the ridiculous reasons to break up a superhero, this is one of the worst. It's like it's like I watched that To All the Boys I Loved Before, and they're like having all these huge relationship problems because they want to go to school on opposite coasts. And it's like, well, you know, if you could fly there really fast, this probably wouldn't be a huge issue to you. So I feel like they're going to make that a thing in the next episode, and I'm going to be so confused. But I do wonder if they're going to bring, like, when we get back to our regular timeline and Melissa Benoist comes back to the show and Kara is out of the Phantom Zone, does she bump into Kenny Lee?
I would not hate that.
I wouldn't either, honestly. I mean, her other option right now doesn't seem...
They did more in 2 episodes with the Kenny and Kara stuff than they did with a whole season with William.
I like Kenny more than I like William, and William's been in like a season and a half now, and Kenny's been in 2 episodes. But Kenny died in one of them. Yeah. He died in one of them, but he came back, thanks Crisis. And Kenny can hang. Kenny knows how to help with the 3D printers. Kenny's telling people, no, that's gonna hurt the timeline. No, that's not a low profile. Kenny is great. I like what's not to like about Kenny when you compare him against William, who hasn't really done much in like a season. Kenny's dynamic in comparison. He says, bro, he's super chill. He wants to save people. I mean, if I have those 2 options in front of me, I know which one I'm taking.
Yeah, I'm just continually perplexed by the romance angle of this show as it comes to Kara, because I don't know where they're going with any of this. So I just happen to think about that with Kenny. Like, I don't know, if it was me, I would probably just maybe quietly take William off the canvas and bring Kenny.
Just send him on assignment somewhere and be like, Godspeed. Go get that big story, William.
Nothing against Stosner. It doesn't
he's great.
seem to be doing anything.
He's not given anything to work with. Poor guy. He's like, you're going to give this big role on Supergirl. He's like, yeah, awesome. And then they're like, I mean, you're not going to be in much of it.
You're not going to be doing.
You're not going to be doing things, but you'll be there.
In one episode, you're just going to watch TV the whole time.
How angrily can you watch a television? And he's like, pretty angry. And they're like, good, we're sold.
Yeah. So I was wondering what your thoughts were on Kenny Lee. And
I'm glad that we both had that same thought, though, where I was like, are they setting this up so that they'll bring him back in the main timeline so that like maybe he's her love interest towards the end of the season? Because kind of a better option.
To me, that's the only reason you do that. Otherwise, why wouldn't he just stay dead?
It sounds terrible to say, but yeah, exactly. It's like we had this episode that established Midvale. Why bring back a character that you killed in the previous episode if you're not going to ever revisit that? But again, this is Supergirl. Let's not make assumptions.
So we did meet another new / old character, which is CJ Grant, the young version. I guess the youngish version. I'm not really sure how old she's supposed to be. I guess she's. Some people were saying she's this version of the character is 6 years before we meet her in season 1. I don't know how accurate that is.
Wait. How do they think aging works?
I don't know. Maybe have they screwed with Cat Grant's storyline?
I was about to say that is.
Have they erased her story?
That is both like very, very kind to Callista Flockhart and not so kind to this actress. Because like this actress is what, like probably in her 30s somewhere?
I would guess so.
So Callista, like that, she's 6 years is not gonna get us to Callista Flockhart in season 1.
Do you think they changed much of her story? I mean, I know like they established she was working at the Planet. She talked to Perry White. She had some beef with Lois Lane. She had been a gossip columnist. So all of that lines up.
Yeah, all that seems pretty reasonable.
But has the timeline changed for her at all post-crisis? I don't know.
So we got a good question here in the chat, if I can find it. Question. On Earth Prime, apparently Kat is working for the Daily Planet in 2009. Has she written the book that Eliza was reading in Midvale on Earth 38?
And if I remember correctly, that the cover of that book had Callista Flockhart, like her picture on it.
I thought so. But I mean, we
So-
are post-crisis now. Everything's different.
Anything can be changed. It doesn't matter. Audiences love
timeline.
it when you change their stories. Audiences love that.
You invested years of your life, but we're just going to get real weird with the timeline now.
We're just going to change it in the very last season. So nothing that you watched previously matters. So let's see.
We have a comment that says, there's no way Cat Grant builds an entire media empire in just a few years. So maybe we are in the 1990s.
Yeah, so maybe she doesn't start Catco until later. I don't know. But what did you think about the portrayal of this young Cat Grant that we were presented?
I thought that the actress was really good at like nailing Callista Flockhart's like Cat Grant mannerisms. I think like when they cast all the people who are going to be in Midvale, like they've cast so well, it's kind of spooky. Like she's really good at being a young Cat Grant. I think I completely bought her. I have a question though, like CJ Grant, is that from something? Is that from the comics?
I don't know. I obviously the C is Catherine, but I don't know what her middle name is. If anybody in the chat knows, I guess it's just a way for her to go. Her middle name in the comics is Jane. So
Okay.
Catherine Jane Grant.
It just seemed like a strange wrinkle to add to the like. It just seemed like gilding the lily almost. I was like, why does she need to have a different nickname in the past? We get that it's Cat Grant. Why
she hasn't become Cat Grant yet.
It's like but it's ridiculous, right? Like it's a little bit much. Like I was with the whole idea of Cat Grant being in Midvale and chasing down this story, but they started to lose me at the CJ thing. Like I was like, we don't need to see her become Cat Grant, literally become Cat Grant, like the name Cat Grant. Like no,
this is the origin of the name Cat Grant, the origin story.
Like, we're watching her become Cat Grant, like become the Cat Grant that we know. I'm assuming that towards the in the end of next episode, like she's going to go off to start her media empire, which she's going to accomplish in 6 short years. And good for her. We don't need her to be like, and you know what? I'm not CJ anymore. Call me Cat. I'm going to throw something at the TV screen because 100% that's going to happen.
That's going to happen. Yes.
Going to happen next week. And it's like, we don't have to go. We understand. We don't have to go that literal.
Stu has a good question. Did Crisis erase Kat's son too? She actually had 2 sons. One was Kara's age.
Yeah.
So where are they?
Bye.
There's nothing Crisis likes to do more than erase children. From the time.
That's true. Crisis giveth with Kenny Lee and Crisis taketh away. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I thought she did a good job. I mean, she had the sort of the mannerisms. She did a lot of things with her hands like this. And she ordered a lot of coffee. She said tick-tock. And she had that background that we understood from the beginning of the series of being a gossip columnist at the Daily Planet. So all of that was good. I'm kind of confused as to why she's needed in this story. Maybe it's because this is how Kara decides, hey, that lady who was like following us around and trying to expose my secret, I want to work for her.
That
like,
girl's got moxie.
how do we get Kara to the point where she's like, man, that lady was really trying to expose me as an alien, but man, I could be about working for her. I don't know how you get there.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm open to finding out if they pull that one off, if they pull some sort of thing off where Kara is kind of inspired by something that Kat does and is like, she seems really cool, and then that would lead us to where she wants to work for Cat Grant. Like I could see them getting there somehow. It's hard to imagine after this episode how you connect that point A to that point B,
and maybe you don't have to.
And maybe it's just a fun cameo. Maybe they're like, you know who the people love? Cat Grant. You know who we can't afford to bring back? Callista Flockhart.
Cat Grant. And one of the questions I had, what did you think about Alex? So young Alex is approached by CJ Grant. CJ Grant is going to write an article about the weird things happening in Midvale. And she thinks that she thinks Alex is Eliza. And she starts to interview her. I thought it was a little stupid of young Alex to be like, yes, I will give you a comment as I pose to be my mother. She could have just said no comment and walked away. Why did she respond?
She's not under arrest. You can just keep walking. Like, I thought that was strange too. She's like very flexum. She was like, oh no. Oh, uh-oh. Yeah, here's my comment. It's like, why? You're pretending to be somebody else.
And you're about to steal something. Say no comment.
Just zip it. My question is, okay, I don't remember the nebulous timeline of Alex Danvers. Nicole might, but at what point does she get conscripted into the DEO? Has she, at this point in the timeline, is she already working for the DEO? This does not feel like her hard partying days.
No, I don't think she's gotten there yet.
So she's not, because I feel like I remembered that she had started working for the DEO like sometime either but during college or after college.
I think it was after. In this episode, she's 2 years into being at Stanford. So
yes.
I don't think she's been approached by the DEO just yet. By Hank Henshaw.
Okay, everybody is telling me no. Donna says no on Alex. That happens at Stanford.
Oh, okay. So maybe in later years.
Okay, because she mentions the DEO, and I was like, was she working for the DEO at this point? Like secretly? Because Kara doesn't know that until the pilot, right? That she actually is working at the DEO.
I think that's right. Who knows anymore? That stuff may not matter anymore.
Well, it's good that my memory, like Alex's brain at one point, is Swiss cheese now, and I can't remember like the early seasons of the show because it turns out you don't need to.
You don't need to. All those notes I took in my Google Docs, I could just trash them. I don't need them anymore.
Nicole says, oops, and I lost it. I think, here, Nicole says, I think her partying days were somewhere in her MD, PhD training. It's just that, like, no part of her academic history makes any sense. And so it's hard for me. It's hard for me to kind of keep that straight because I'm like, well, if you take her timeline seriously, how is she her age?
Yeah. So lots of questions about the Eliza aspect of it. Is she in? She doesn't join the DEO. I don't think she was ever a DEO agent.
So Silhouetted Animator in the chat says 2013 is when she's in the DEO. The flashbacks in the episode Manhunter in season 1. So if the timeline is still the same, a big if, Kenny Lee says, still alive, then that would mean that she's not yet in the DEO. There was a mention of the DEO, and I thought, oh, does that mean that Alex is? But clearly not. Maybe not yet.
But she shows some signs of being able to be part of the DEO. I thought some of the ways she handled herself and the things she was saying to Kara were very mature. And thinking about, the protection of it all. She's still in the protecting Kara phase and trying to make sure that Kara doesn't do something stupid phase.
Yeah.
Which is clearly needed because Kara was doing some dumb things that could have exposed herself.
Well, does it feel like a little bit like the relationship that kind of gets established in Midvale in season 3 has kind of been undone a little bit here because they're still very kind of contentious with each other? Which I feel like, in Midvale they are, and then sort of at the end of that episode, they get to a place where they're a little bit more understanding of each other. But here, that's a couple years after Midvale, and they seem like they're still kind of prickly with each other. They're still a little at odds. Like, she's still very much the older sister who resents that she has to take care of the younger sister, and that she is kind of, because of that, lost so much, emphasis on herself, that she has to keep putting herself aside to take care of Kara.
Yeah, I guess you have to connect the end of Midvale to Alex having that breakdown when Eliza comes to Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So I guess you have to connect them somehow. But you're right. I mean, and that would have been just a few years after Midvale, I guess.
It doesn't seem like their relationship is bad so much as like strained, which isn't unrealistic, I think, at that age. Like, Kara is about to graduate high school. Alex is a couple years older in college. And so there's still kind of an age difference thing. And Alex feels like she's responsible for Kara. And so it makes sense that, like, that kind of, there would be a little bit of a distance. It's not like, our usual Alex and Kara relationship. But it did just seem to me a little strange of like, oh, they're not super close right now. Just like in Midvale, that episode that we watched.
Well, Donna says that's because they didn't bond because Kenny didn't die, which is a good point.
That is true.
So that may be why that is the case. So yeah, it's another one of those changes, I guess, that we're just supposed to go with now, post a crisis. I did have questions for you, Morgan, about Naxum Torque.
Sure.
The blue alien abductors.
Love him.
So what are your thoughts? Did they really need to insert this into the storyline here?
They did not. Yeah, I don't know what that was about. When we got to that in the episode, I was like, now it's gotten goofy. Like, we were already going back in time to get DNA during a meteor shower where Kara is depowered during prom. And now there's some aliens that want to kidnap them because of the zoo.
That is an accurate summation of what happened.
So I've got two questions. One, is he a DC Comics character? Is he like pulled somewhere from the comics?
No, I looked him up. I could not find anything. But I think, hear me out. I'm going to make a case. I think he is from the race that Brian the alien is from.
Ooh.
It's my suspicion because they have blue faces, which
Yes,
Brian the
love
alien did. And he had an assistant named Mitch, which I thought was a really boring sounding alien name.
It
And
was.
also, Brian is a boring sounding alien name. So maybe people of that species, that alien species, just have boring alien name or like boring normal names.
I love this. And I love it more than my theory that they watched some of those Marvel movies and they just made Benicio del Toro into this character. Because that's basically Benicio del Toro's character in those Marvel movies. He's the can't remember what his name is, like the Collector or something. But that's basically what his character does in those Marvel movies. Is he collects things that are rare, and that's exactly what this guy is doing in this. And I was just like, that doesn't seem like the most original. But I was willing to give them a pass if he was like an actual comic book character. And now I'm willing to give him a pass because he's related to my boy Brian.
I just thought it was weird. I was like, his name is Mitch.
Yeah.
What?
Mitch.
The other guy's name is Naxum Torque. and his assistant's name is Mitch. So I was like, there's got to be a reason why his name is Mitch. So I don't know. That's my theory at the moment. I don't know if they're going to connect that to Brian the alien, but if it was me, I would. I
mean, I would have Brian like show up and be like, hey, Mitch, long time no see. And like ruin their plan at the end. And then we could all just be like, Brian, you scamp.
Maybe he was part of this zoo. Maybe that's where he came from. And that's why he ended up coming to Earth.
So I see a comment in the chat from Stuart who says Superman, the animated series, had a guy called the Preserver who hired Lobo to capture Superman to keep in a menagerie.
So that does sound like him.
Similar. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that could be the case. So thank you for that. Because I did try to see if I could find him by name, but I could not. So maybe they just used it.
I like Nicole's theory here too. So she says maybe Naxum Torque is his stage name and his real name is like Nick or Nate.
It would fit Brian and Mitch. I think that would be a yeah. So Mark has a good theory. What if Mitch decides to ditch the henchman gig, change his name, and this is Brian's origin story? Could be.
I love that too. I love that.
Well,
I love that journey for him.
I mean, we've always thought of Brian as kind of a reformed criminal. So this I think would line up.
This could be when he turned his life around to then have to turn his life around again. But the first time he turned his life around.
Yeah. So the introduction of this was strange because I was like, wait, who are these people? Why are they here? I don't know. But they did have a big purpose at the end of the episode because they kidnapped Nia and Brainy. So this big cliffhanger at the end of this.
Yeah,
we're getting a two-parter.
I didn't hate them being involved. I did question why they were needed when so much stuff was already going on. It just felt like that. What's the? I think it's that one piece of fashion advice where you put on all your accessories and then you just take one off. But they decided to just keep that extra one on. They were like 50 bangles. Yeah. Let's do that. Really, 49's not good enough for you?
Yeah, they have kept the all of the articles of clothing on at this point. Okay, so I guess we've talked about all the elements. Are there any other things that you wanted to talk about that we didn't already?
I don't know. I think we covered it pretty well. I guess, what did you think about Brainy's storyline here? Because besides joining every different club available, I think he learned that there are ways to manage stress that aren't just chomping on chips.
It's a good lesson to learn.
It is.
To exercise, to join an extracurricular activity. I think that's good.
To sing.
Yeah, and now I love Dolly Parton. 9 to 5.
I love that moment.
9 to 5 is like one of the all-time great songs.
Dolly's just having such a good year this year.
It's also one of the all-time great comedic
such a good movies.
I didn't think we needed to see her sing the whole chorus. It was a little awkward, and maybe it was supposed to be, but it felt like somebody was like, Nicole would really like to sing in an episode. And so they wrote in a moment for her to sing. But I did not. Oh, it was rough. It was rough. Not that it was bad. It felt like it went on a little long.
I agree. I think that they could have given us a couple verses. We got it was 9 to 5, and then they could have gotten out, but it was like working. They all got all the way down there, and you're like, all right, we're still doing this. We're still singing, I guess.
Yeah, it was a little awkward for me to watch, but I understood. I'm glad that Nia was able to help Brainy understand that by indulging in that in herself, like showing him an example of what that would be like.
Yeah, I thought this was a really good character development episode for both of them, as far as kind of moving their storylines forward. And I think bringing a lot of the stuff from Nia's family and her past and her questions about her dreaming ability, to me kind of points in the direction. I feel like that's a lot of setup if they never go back to her family and her sister. And
they mentioned her sister.
They do. They mentioned her sister. Yeah. And this is maybe not the first time that they've mentioned her sister or her family recently. So I feel like there is some setup, and I'm going to be upset if they don't pay it off, if they don't ever, do something with her family or with Naltor or anything like that before the end of the season. Because I feel like they're bringing it back around to that family storyline of hers, and the fact that she never thought that she'd be the one with the dreaming powers, and so she doesn't have that knowledge about how to dream interpret like her mom and her sister had.
The no-brainer ending would be to have Nia reconnect with Maeve, and for Maeve to teach her how to interpret her dreams and use that power, because Maeve knew all about that. So it seems like the easiest storyline to wrap up would be to have her reconnect with her sister and kind of smooth that over, and then use Maeve as a way to step in for her mother and teach her those powers. But I don't know if that's the way they're going to go.
That's how I feel like the season is pointing me in that direction. Who knows if that's the direction that they will actually go in, but that's what I feel like the setup is there. And I like that, because I do feel like that, we liked that Naltor episode. We liked that, the stuff with her family, and then they really just dropped it. There hasn't been a lot of follow-up since then. So it would be nice for her to be able to go back to that and kind of talk to that sort of storyline about her family again.
I think that would be nice. I hope they do something like that, but I'm not getting my hopes up.
And my last question is probably just something I forgot. Are Nia and Brainy back together?
I think so. I think they have been. Didn't they say "I love yous" a couple episodes?
Did I forget about this?
I think so.
Feels right. I was like, the whole episode, I was like, are they dating again? Because they broke up. I'm not like crazy. They broke up.
No, at one point they did
but
sort of separate.
I think they got back together, but I'm not sure. So I was just want a status update. Like, it's complicated? Are they back together?
I don't know. I think there were some "I love yous" that were said. So that seems pretty together to me. Yeah, so there is that. So anything else before we wrap up and get to feedback?
I think that was all I had.
Okay, so final thoughts. What did you think about this episode, Prom Night? !
Prom Night. Well, first off, it's called Prom Night, but there's no prom, which I did resent. It should be
there was some night. It was at night.
There was certainly night, but there was no prom, and I'm mad about it. They probably should have called this one something else. But night! Exclamation point. Other than that, I really liked this episode. I thought this was probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite one of the season. I like seeing little Cara and little Alex. I like those Midvale vibes. Sure, Kenny Lee's back. Okay. That's fun. That's fun for him being alive.
Yeah, that's great for him.
But I like that, I think most of us love that Midvale episode. I think if you asked most Supergirl fans, they're going to pick that as one of their favorites. And so getting those great actresses back again, still uncanny how good they are and how much they're like their older counterparts. And then just being able to be back in that time period with them and see their relationship, I thought was so good. See Cara before she had sort of taken up superheroing, when she still got the necklace and all of stuff like that. And then I thought it was really just a strong character spotlight for Nia and Brainy. Like, it could have just been going back into Midvale zany stuff, and they actually used it, the pared down cast to actually tell a Nia story and a Brainy story as well as a Cara and Alex story. So I really appreciated that. I think, the cast has gotten really big. So when they can kind of zone in on a couple of characters, I think that they do a little bit better when they're trying to service like 15 at once.
Oh yeah. It felt like a smaller story but somehow a more expansive story. They were telling lots of stories at the same time, but it felt small, which I kind of liked. If I ignore the change in continuity, the fact that things that I knew for previous seasons don't matter anymore.
Nope.
If I ignore all of the changes post crisis and just enjoyed it for what it was, I thought it was a good episode. I thought all the actors did a really good job. I appreciated that they brought what is that song back? I think the group is Phoenix.
Oh yeah, Phoenix.
The 1901 song. That was actually 2009 appropriate. I think it was released in February 2009. When I heard that, I was like, oh, I remember that song. I used to love that song. I used to play that all the time.
I love that song, and I was like, okay, now we're talking about 2009, not "Was Up."
Yeah. So Phoenix 1901. So I liked that. That was the song that they played as they sort of time traveled in the Legion cruiser and went back to 2009. So there were aspects of the episode that I really liked, including the music selection, the 9 to 5 singing. I had some awkward issues with, but I think it was supposed to be a little bit awkward. So I think that was the intention. But I thought it was a good episode. And the writing for the most part held up, I think, and I'm glad that Kenny Lee is alive. That's good for him. So I'm interested to see what part 2 brings, because I think it ended on a good cliffhanger to make me want to see like how this all wraps up. How do they get Kara's DNA? That's kind of, if I
kind of forgot about that for most of the episode.
It was kind of like Supergirl the movie when Supergirl is supposed to save Argo. And she just she joins the high school.
Maybe this was their call out to Supergirl the movie. It's like, we're gonna have Brainy pull a total Kara Danvers from that movie and just completely forget her mission so that she can join a bunch of clubs at school.
She goes to math class, computer class. It's great. So maybe that is a reference to Supergirl the movie. We're gonna count it as such. Sure. So if you sort of ignore all of those things that don't really add up, I thought it was a good episode, and I'm glad to see these younger actors come back, because I thought they did a really good job. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for our discussion, but let's find out what our listeners had to say about Prom Night.
Prom Night. Okay. At K Kyle 1 said, so after the first episode featured Kara struggling to fly, now we find out that she flew in high school? Why was it okay for Nia to go back in time, but not Jean? Scooby-Doo, classic. Scooby-Duo, classic. How much do they actually know about what changed in Crisis? Apparently, Nia's powers are whatever we need them to be this week, and Nia needed glasses because... the actresses playing the younger sisters really are amazing, and CJ Grant was great. This is my favorite episode of the season. Despite its flaws, it was just fun. Some good questions there. I also question why Jean couldn't go back to the past.
Brainy gave the explanation that he would run into his past self.
How likely was that in Midvale, though?
Well, Hank Henshaw did go to the Danvers house to get Jeremiah Danvers. So I think he had a couple of those run-ins. One time he pretended to be Alora, didn't he?
Oh, that's right. So he might have bumped into himself creeping around in the bushes pretending to be Kara's mom. So that'd be awkward for everyone.
Yeah, so I guess they were worried about that. And he did recruit Alex, I guess, in the later stages of her college career. So maybe that was the justification for that. I did want to respond about Kara struggling to fly in the pilot. It probably doesn't matter anymore because that's probably changed because of Crisis. But I think that Kara, if I remember correctly, they say something to the effect of like she hadn't done it in a while. So Kara, even in Midvale, we see her in the season 3 episode Midvale, we see her fly. So it's not like she couldn't fly. She just hadn't done it in a long time. So that was part of that in the pilot.
That makes sense. At Doogie 448 said, is Midvale a city or a state? Alex had Midvale on the plates of her van, which would indicate statehood.
And at Mark HBPWM also responded to that, saying National City also has its own plates. The only time I remember a show actually making up a state for its plates was the Eagle State on Desperate Housewives. Yeah, to me, this is weird.
Yeah.
Why would Midvale be a state? It's always been a city in the comics. So it's weird to me that they would make it a state.
Yeah, it's really strange. I didn't notice that, but now I'm not going to be able to stop thinking about it.
Rachel asks, is Metropolis a city or a state? It's a city.
It should be a city.
I don't know what state it's usually in. I think sometimes it's in Kansas with Smallville, but I'm not real sure.
I mean, in Smallville, the television show, he would go back and forth to everybody would go back and forth to Metropolis like it was like a half an hour away.
Even though I think one time they established it as being a couple of hours away. But
exactly. Like Chloe would be like back and forth. It'd be like, wait, he can fly. How did you?
She just drove really fast.
She's like, I'm speeding.
Yeah. The Metropolis Midvale thing, I think, was explained in this episode as being a 3-hour drive. CJ Grant had to drive in the car 3 hours.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
But yeah, should be a city.
It should be a city. It should not be a state. And yet, who knows? Maybe at the post-crisis, it's a state.
I guess so.
At SL Fricky said, I liked the sisters arguing scene because I was wondering if Alex's resentment that season 1 supposedly established was ever going to come up in these flashbacks. If Brainy is worried about the time stream, why is he still living in the present day and not 3021? Hashtag Team Kenny.
Because they had to get Wynn left the show and they needed somebody to stay around and be the tech guy.
That's true. At Claudia 26330546 said, for me, this episode was okay. Didn't mind the history rewrites due to Crisis. Only thought that kept popping into my head was, do Alex, Kara, Eliza now have new memories of Brainy and Nia's shenanigans? Also, in 2009, Kara was most likely 18-year-olds around prom, turning 19 by year's end.
That's a really good question. They should have memories of this now.
Yeah, you would think. Well, this is the time travel conundrum, right? Because are they like, what happens when they go back in time and they like bump into them? Are they creating new memories? Is like Alex in present day going like, oh, I've got a headache and now I remember Dolly Parton. Yeah, it's a question like why they wouldn't have like when Kara first met Nia, why she wouldn't be like, hey, I know you.
She didn't just
You're an alien too.
She didn't just
they had a sleepover.
They had a sleepover. It wasn't just meeting her. They Kara had her over to her house.
In high school life, that means you're tight.
Yeah.
You don't just invite anybody over for a sleepover. At Fractal Inverter said, oh my God, this episode was so good. It was really fun. It was really fun watching. Can we just get a Midvale show already? This is what it should have been, have always been about. It becomes so apparent that the main show has killed itself in dark drama, dark scenery, and dark suits. At the Dave M. Jones said, didn't love the continued disregard for established history. I know, Crisis happened. But I feel like 6 seasons deep, you shouldn't be messing with history too much. Parts were entertaining for sure, but the lack of cohesive storytelling is a sore subject for me.
Is it just me, or do a lot of shows do this? Once Upon a Time like rebooted itself in I think season 8, and Smallville did a lot of this in like season 8, season 10.
Whereas like suddenly everything's different. And we're like, I've been watching the show the whole time.
I've been watching this show for almost a decade. Please,
what?
I'm invested.
I've invested so many years of my life into this. It's sunk cost. I can't get out now. Could you stop? We have a tweet from at Brooklyn _biker who says, in New York, the episode was preempted for the Yankees game. I'm a Mets fan, so it's not like I needed another reason to despise them. At Ferreira 365 said, I liked it very much. It was entertaining. And oh my God, is that Callista Flockhart's daughter? I mean, wow. She is phenomenal as Cat Grant. Young Alex and Kara were awesome. Would just like to know when Kara told Kenny about her powers. Also, hiding a spaceship like a key under the rug, which is, I think, a pretty good problem that they just kind of hid it in the fields. At Super Edits 00 said, I actually liked it. Brainy's performance was awesome. He is great at being stressed out. I also like the fact that he is afraid of young Alex too. The new Kenny storyline is pretty interesting. I really like him. Sad to see Alex blaming Kara for her problems again, though. At Danvers Couch said, great episode, even though they changed Kenny not dying. Are Kara and Alex still remember everything from what happened in their original timeline? Again, questions about that. At DJ Writer said, a solid episode, but I don't like them rewriting a significant moment in Danvers Sisters history. At Shark89 said, one of my favorites this season so far. The actresses playing the young Danvers sisters continue to be impeccable, both as visual doubles to the present versions and inability to embody those characters. The cringe humor made me laugh, and the surprise of Nicole Main's singing was also a positive. They even found someone to play a very good ringer for a younger Cat Grant. Have to ask, though, how did she go from fighting Perry to get out of the gossip column to running Catco in a short 6 years from when she was in Midvale? Good question.
It's a great question.
So many good questions. Hopefully we find out. At Kenny Curley said, Prom Night was amazing. Love the interactions with young Cara, young Alex, Nia Nall, and Brainy. Some nice nods also to Smallville. Loved the cliffhanger ending that sets things up for the mid-season finale of season 6. Now, question. Is next week the mid-season finale? I thought we had one more after that.
I think 7 is when we have.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
It goes over to Superman and Lois.
The question mark hiatus.
Yes, the TBD question mark hiatus.
How long will it be? We won't know.
We do not know when it is coming back. I guess we can go into our emails now. We have an email from Yvonne who writes, "Hi, ladies. Sorry I'm a bit behind here due to being in the UK and catching up a little later with the latest episode and then the podcast. So I didn't get this to you in time for the podcast. In relation to Lena joining the Super Friends and inventing the Ghostbusters thingy in Lost Souls, if she's using tech created while at Luthor Corp to do that, then I think there's another legal issue to consider. As a UK technology lawyer," we have another lawyer in the mix.
Nice.
I normally admire the legal section of the podcast from a distance, since it tends to focus on matters of litigation and the U.S. Constitution, which are not my area. However, this one is closer to my wheelhouse. If the Ghostbusters tech or its underlying components were originally created by Lena while she was an employee of Luthor Corp and in the course of her employment contract, then most jurisdictions I'm aware of would state that all intellectual property is created in the course of employment belongs to the company she is employed by. That doesn't change when you leave the company in relation to things you created while in employment. Therefore, the tech Lena is using directly or indirectly to build the Ghostbusters thingy quite likely belongs to Luthor Corp, and they could try to stop her and the Super Friends using it on the grounds that it infringes their intellectual property. That could be an injunction or a damages claim. I mean, I know there's a greater good and all that, but I don't think Lex cares about greater good. Does he? Just thought I'd feed into the legal discussion from across the pond, unquote. So that's a good point. It could be that she was using Luthor Corp technology to do that.
That's hilarious. I love how many lawyers listen to our podcast. It makes me feel smart.
We have a global legal team.
We do. We're going to get them in from every continent.
We'll get the legalities of most countries. That's a good thing to have.
I love it. Courtney wrote in with some questions about this episode, asking, Metropolis is a 3-hour drive to Midvale. I was under the assumption they were on opposite coasts. I know Eliza has to fly to National City for Thanksgiving, but that could be a choice for time's sake. We see Cara and Alex drive to Midvale in Jean's car in the Midvale episode. Did Crisis rearrange geographic locations too?
I thought that lined up pretty well, because if Cara and Alex took a road trip, they could have been driving that 3 hours to Midvale.
Yeah, it does make me question Eliza taking a plane for a 3-hour trip, but I mean, you do you.
I mean, sometimes I've flown to Atlanta, which is like a 30-minute flight sometimes. So I mean, it's not out of the question. Maybe she just didn't want to drive.
Like I've flown to Pittsburgh, but that's like a 5-hour drive, and so I was like, I'll pass on that one. But 3 hours, it feels like, is it worth the TSA? I don't know. I guess to Eliza, it was.
Yeah, so that's a good question.
She also asked, out of curiosity, didn't Wynn take the ship back to the future?
I couldn't find this in my Google Docs, but I remember Jesse Rath posted an Instagram something or other about how Brainy still had a Legion cruiser, which was never explained on the show.
I love that poor Jesse Rath has to explain things on Instagram. Like, I know it doesn't make sense, but here's what I think. Here's how I've headcanoned it.
Now the canon is based on Instagram posts, but I believe that's what we're told, is that Brainy just had another Legion cruiser laying around.
Sure, he had spare. Who doesn't?
No big deal. And I guess I will take this next email because I had you doing the last one. So I'll let you take a break. We have an email from Kaylee who writes, quote, "Hi, Supergirl Radio. You guys have recently mentioned wishing that a mental health professional might comment on aspects of the show. We are building our team, really."
Yes. Yes.
While I am by no means a licensed, anything yet, I have a psychology undergraduate degree and am currently in graduate school for marriage and family therapy. To give you some personal context, I was a junior in high school when Supergirl first aired on CBS. That was a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
Supergirl was already my favorite DC hero. I grew up watching Justice League cartoons and Young Justice, but the show made me fall in love with her all over again. I remember racing home from softball practice on Monday nights, trying to get to the TV in time for an episode to air. I've had the experience of waiting weekly for episodes to come out, and I have been watched entire seasons in a matter of days. Both are great options. I discovered your podcast at the beginning of quarantine, so very recently.
Nice.
Your show is such a wonderful way for like-minded people to connect through story. Well, I'm glad you think so.
Aw.
Let's see. Kaylee goes on to say, I know there are many aspects of the show that could be addressed from a counseling perspective, history of abuse, neglect, grief, PTSD, etc. There are also the ethical considerations of Kelly's therapy work with Obsidian. Remember when she was using Obsidian technology to do therapy sessions?
Yeah. I had some questions about that, but the show never had answers for me.
Don't worry about it. It's not a big thing.
Don't worry.
However, since Lost Souls and previous episodes have harped on emotional expression, I would like to discuss the emotional aspect of Supergirl. Each character on the show has their own way of learning emotional regulation. The first season had a huge focus on Supergirl's anger. Storylines like Red Tornado, Red Kryptonite, and Punching Cars with James fed into the idea that Kara had been bottling up her feelings for quite some time. She was feeling so much all at once that every emotional expression came out as anger. Her character arc became learning to appropriately express emotion with each event. She was really getting the hang of emotional expression in season 2, but we watched her regress somewhat in season 3 when she penned up all her feelings for the married Mon-El. Yikes. However, I feel that becoming Nia's mentor in seasons 4 and 5 have helped Kara to appropriately express what she feels when she feels it, and afterwards she lets it go. Very rarely have we gotten those bottled up emotional explosions with Kara. She has matured, and now she lets pressure out of her emotional valve as needed. What I write here about Kara probably says more about me personally than the character of Supergirl. We've grown and matured together. Lena's tiny boxes theory came up from a well-intentioned place. Compartmentalization is not always unhelpful. In fact, between my supervised counseling sessions, I have to do some compartmentalization. That's a big word myself.
It is.
So that my feelings for one client do not affect my ability to assist the next client. Again, the thing Lena was missing was appropriate times to express those boxed emotions and let them go. Now, poor Brainy has followed her example and is clueless as to how to regulate years of buildup. In keeping with the theories of multiple intelligences, Brainy may be a 12th level intellect, but I don't think the writers have ever intended for emotional intelligence to be part of his level. I hope that the legacy of the show will be the balcony and couch scenes. The beauty of these moments lie in the fact that the characters are appropriately expressing emotions and reflecting on the day's experience. They demonstrate the healthy process of feeling an emotion, accepting the emotion, sharing the emotion, and resetting the entire emotional system in order to move forward. The balcony and couch scenes represent appropriate emotional regulation. We don't see much of this on TV today. While watching Brainy break keyboards is entertaining and our mirror neurons go crazy as we watch, repeatedly showing women express emotion, and that is part of what makes them strong. So it's a better example for Supergirl audiences. The Super Friends get a lot of experiential adventure-based therapy. Think about a group retreating to some places with a ropes course. The Super Friends get that weekly, but on steroids. This is the only therapeutic when a conversation happens afterwards about the metaphor of the event. Their physical battles are often metaphorical and isomorphic in nature. They have obviously been through a lot together, but much of what they have experienced emotionally has been metaphorically closed with the defeat of a villain. They have balcony and couch scenes to talk about the isomorphic nature of what they experience each day, or what they experienced that day. Each character talks about what the day's events meant to them and how they will proceed in the future. However, if you notice who is on the balcony or couch most frequently, you'll understand why they have better emotional regulation than, say, Brainy. Those who take the time to discuss the day's events as they occur will be able to put those struggles behind them and press on. Brainy did sit on a couch with Nia at the end of this episode, so that is progress. I think this might have been about last week's episode.
Yeah.
You'll notice Lena has been getting a few more balcony moments this season because she has made substantial progress in emotional regulation. I don't know if this was necessarily new information, but perhaps this discussion can help us reframe the way we see Brainy stuffing his face with donuts, or getting snacks out of snack machines, or failing to get them out of snack machines. So the email goes on to say, I'm really grateful for your podcast and the character of Kara Zor-El. Hope, help, and compassion for all is always in the back of my mind when I go into a counseling session. If there's any more you'd like for me to comment on in the future, let me know, unquote. So we will definitely have to keep that in mind, because we needed a mental health expert to chime in on some of these things.
I love it. I love that now we have overseas lawyers, we have mental health experts, real estate.
we have a science consultant, so now all we need is a real estate person to chime in.
We're like building our dream team here.
We're building our own Super Friends team with all various levels and specific areas of study. So this is very exciting.
Should I take the next one?
Yeah, go for it.
You just had to read a very long one.
Lord.
Yeah, Isabel from Brisbane, Australia sent us an email saying, I'm a longtime listener, but this is my first time writing in. I thought I may as well get in on the action since it's the last season. Thanks, Isabel. She says, this was my favorite episode of the season so far. As usual, the young Danvers sisters were amazing. It's uncanny how similar they look to Kyler and Melissa, and I thought their acting was on point. I thought it was hilarious how the show wrote Kenny back in and Alex blamed it on Crisis. I also loved how Nia explained her powers to Kara, and it made zero sense. It was good to see Kat again, and the actress did a great job, although I'm not sure how the show can justify that Kat would look that much younger only about 6 years before the show began. What was going on with the blonde streaks in Kara's hair? Did you clock it as a wig or just a weird costuming choice? Supergirl does love a statement streak, cough, cough, Alex. Also, was I the only one thinking of the purple big cat from early Catco days when Nia was dreaming?
Yeah, I thought the cat was about Catco, because there is like a pink cat, like a pink tiger in the Catco offices. So I thought it was like foreshadowing Cat Grant coming and being on their trail. Like, I think it connected to the zoo, the menagerie zoo of like Brian the alien species.
Yes.
Maximum Torque. And the fact that CJ Grant was on their trail. That's what that was my first thought.
It had layers of meaning.
Yes.
In fact, layers.
Yeah. So in the wig thing, I had more thoughts about CJ Grant's wig than anything to do with Kara's hair, because that was a wig, right?
Was it a wig? I don't know. I clocked that one as a wig. I did notice the really bright blonde streaks in Kara's hair, and I did think that's weird, because you couldn't see it unless it was like really close up, and so I only noticed it like once or twice, and I was like, why is there just kind of like one really blonde streak in there? But maybe the Danvers sisters just really love that as a fashion statement.
Did you not play with hair dye when you were in high school? Because I sure did.
I sure did too.
I had a blonde streak at one point in my hair.
I was a redhead all through high school and college, so I can't say anything.
Yeah, I think Kara was maybe just playing with her hair. Okay, I totally goofed up this Google Doc. I'm so sorry. So Mark wrote in saying, "What's up?" Seriously, I looked it up. The Budweiser campaign that ended in 2002, and everyone was incredibly burnt out on it. Well, before that, yeah, it got to the point where it's like, stop saying it. Mark goes on to say, I have two questions. How bad is Brainy's intel to think that was still a thing in 2009? And why would someone give a job to a writer who was apparently incredibly anxious to go far out of their way to bring that back? Mark goes on to say, did you notice in the DEO file of the menagerie owner, one of his aliases was Alien King? I'm not sure anyone will get that in 5 or 10 years, but I thought it was funny. I think it was a nod to the Tiger King.
Tiger King references.
Yes.
We've all been there. We've all been through the same pandemic.
So that's if you're listening 5 or 10 years in the future, there was a fantastic documentary series about a man who loved tigers.
He loved a lot of things, but tigers was his number one. Tigers and music, bad music.
And he had his own live stream. He had his own live online show. Good
A lot like this one, but also a lot not like this one.
So that was a reference probably to the Tiger King. Mark goes on to say, finally, it's rare that I call out the direction of the show for criticism, but something did bug me in this one. During the milkshake scene early on, when Kenny left to go up to the counter, Alex referred to him while talking about Kara not wanting to tell him when she wanted to leave for National City University, and they did a focus pull from her back to him at the counter. That focus change might be a trope, but it just didn't work here. First, I thought they had used a bad take or had to blur something on Alex's hands until I looked again, unquote. So, I'll have to go back and look at that. I didn't catch it early on, but thank you for pointing that out.
And we got an email from Yvette who sent us an email say, was this Nia and Brainy's audition to join the Legends of Tomorrow next season? I'm good with that. They did mess up the timeline already, which is a classic Legends move. They go on to say, glad to see Kenny back, but I don't like that Crisis gives the writers an excuse not to pay attention to the show's established backstory and write whatever they want. Young Kara and Alex are perfect casting, and I'm glad we got to see them one more time. I enjoyed the episode, and I'm looking forward to part 2.
I guess they could go into Legends if they wanted to. Redlocks27 wrote in to ask, quote, where is Lena? Was she just in the back on headphones or something when they all mutually decided who was going back in time? I know she is unemployed now, so why couldn't she just join in on the Back to the Future Part 4 fun/fiasco, unquote? It's a really good point. Lena probably would have had something to say about time travel.
Yeah, Lena could have. I don't know. Can Lena blend into a high school environment though? Like, if we're questioning whether like Brainy could just be part of the baseball team, could you imagine Lena Luthor walking in with her like boardroom attire, clavicles out, like, it's me, your fellow classmate? Like, no one's buying that.
Yeah, I wonder what Lena's 2009 wardrobe choices would be. What would she be into in 2009?
I mean, we're visiting young Kara and young Alex. I want to visit high school Lena. I think that we've seen a little bit of Lena's like backstory with Andrea, but I would love to see like what high school Lena was up to, because I'm sure it was crazy.
I think at that time she probably would have worn a set of pearls.
Yeah, she's riding a horse.
That's a good thing to mentally picture in my head. Redlocks27 has also volunteered to be our Supergirl Radio forensics consultant, so we will happily accept that offer. I believe Redlocks27 was sent in the email with the blood spatter.
Nice.
So we do have a forensics consultant now.
We're building our team. Super friends. Okay. Daryl wrote in to ask, they definitely used Crisis to change things. So Supergirl brought back her friend from high school, but not Nia's mom? I feel like what happened with Crisis is that a bunch of stuff just kind of changed because of Crisis, but like the effects were variable. Like, it wasn't a specific, like they didn't go out and go like, okay, we're saving Kenny, but Nia, sorry, tough luck.
Yeah, it is weird, the things that they've chosen to change. It's very much based on what do we need the story to do? We'll change that about Crisis. So that's kind of what that is. I don't think Kara has anything to say about that. It's just what they need for the moment. And finally, I think this is our last email. Sam wrote us an email with a huge dilemma saying, quote, I've been watching the show since season 1 and have been holding on by my fingernails as each season goes by. I do everything I can to enjoy what little I can with each episode. And even in season 5, I found reasons to enjoy the smallest of moments. However, season 6, I can't seem to find anything. I normally would enjoy a Midvale episode, as I find young Danvers episodes to be so rich in backstory and with the Danvers sisters, but the amount of retconning due to Crisis has just made me so furious. I feel like it just entirely disrespects everything that was built in season 1 onwards. I've said to myself that I'm going to stick through the finale as I've gone this far with the show, but giving everything with COVID, I'm in Canada where we're in a pretty intense third wave, it just feels like another thing that's stressing me out, and the fan feedback just feels all negative. From listening to your previous season 6 episodes, I don't feel I'm entirely alone on how disappointed I feel on season 6 as a whole, but I wanted to ask how you're both feeling on season 6 as a whole and how you're feeling on Supergirl's show legacy, and if you have any hope that the season will turn around, unquote. So it seems like Sam needs a hope speech.
Oh my God. Sam, look at me. Sam, look at me. You can't give up hope, okay? I know that things are tough. I know that we all sat through that Lex courtroom scene and that we want to give up, but we can't because you have to keep hope alive. What would Kara say to you? She would look you in the eye and she would just say hope because she's trimmed down that speech. She's trimmed all the fat out of that speech. She would just look at you and she'd say, Sam, hope. And then she would just walk away. And so I feel like that's what we have to do. How can we give up hope when she's given so many speeches about it?
That is her thing. Yeah, I think let's just see how it goes. My whole thing is like, even if I didn't enjoy it, like I'm really optimistic. Maybe they'll pull it together. Maybe the ending of season 6 will just blow our socks off and just be everything that we would love the show to be. So I'm willing to give it some time. We've had 2 pretty good episodes in a row here, even though the first couple of them were. But maybe they've got some really good stuff up their sleeves for the ending of the season. So I say see it through, see where it goes. You've gotten this far.
You're still close to the end.
Just honor Supergirl and the show.
Keep running on that race.
honor the show's legacy by just watching it. I know sometimes it's hard. I have a really tough time watching this show. Sometimes the only enjoyment I get out of the show is doing these podcast episodes with Morgan and our listeners in the chat. Sometimes that's all that gets me through it. But sometimes you just got to see it through. So make a deal with yourself. This is going to be something you do for yourself. Do it for Supergirl. I feel like she would like that. She would want that. And I feel like, think about hang your hat on a couple of things that you actually enjoy about the show. Maybe it's a character, maybe it's a performance, maybe it's a relationship, maybe you're like, I love the Danvers sisters, or I love Lena and Kara, or whatever it is, and then just hold on for that. Like, this is Supergirl, things are gonna get weird, but maybe, just maybe, they'll come back together and really blow our socks off. So in the meantime, as we have to sit through weird legal stuff that makes no sense, and William just getting really mad at a TV screen while Alex tells Kelly off screen a big secret. Find the thing that gets you through and just hold on to that very tightly. I think that is wise advice. So thank you for sharing that, Morgan. And thank you for everybody who sent in your emails and your tweets. And don't forget, don't stop hoping. Never stop hoping. You got to keep that hope alive. Okay. All right. Oh, sorry. I think we're going to do some snap judgments here. And we have a special guest who is joining us, who is a big fan of the Danvers sisters. So I thought this would be fitting for this person to join us. So we're going to bring Donna in, who is not only a former guest of the podcast, but also a Supergirl Radio Patreon supporter. So thank you, Donna, for joining us and being here with us.
My pleasure. I hope y'all don't mind. I brought a couple of friends.
Hey,
buds.
So that's very fitting for a Danvers Sisters episode to bring your flat Supergirl and flat Alex. I know you've been having a lot of fun with the pictures you've been. They've been going on all kinds of adventures. So I hope you're having a lot of fun with that. We could do an entire puppet show, I think. We really could. Supergirl puppet theater. Well, listen, we don't know how long the hiatus is going to go, so it could happen.
Yeah, I have it on good authority that the artist is as we speak, commissioning a off-duty Alex and Kelly.
Oh, nice. If we get if we collect them all, we could do a puppet theater. I think we could make this happen.
Okay, that works for me.
We could at least get little Kelly popping up in people's bedrooms to give them therapy. Hologram Kelly. Okay, so Donna, I think we're gonna do our little intro and then we'll make some snap judgments. In the game of snap judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended and explanations are unnecessary. Okay, so our first snap judgment is from Rebecca. Rebecca,
I submitted this. And
Okay.
Morgan, if you have any snap judgments you would like to submit, I just thought this would be a fun one.
I like it. Okay. If you were Brainy, would you rather join the Glee Club or the baseball team? Donna.
So this is
It's
your
the finger.
your Brainy's feet.
Brainy's feet. Given the way he would just seem to be having a ball spinning that bat, I think the baseball team.
Yeah, unexpectedly great at baseball. So I guess baseball is the one.
Yeah, I don't know. He seemed really good at baseball, but I want to see his Glee Club audition. I feel like we were robbed of that. Like he got conscripted into the Glee Club, and yet we only heard Nia sing in this episode. It was very confusing to me. So I'm going Glee Club.
Yeah, that is a little weird that they would have him join the Glee Club, and then Nia was the one who sang. I'm going to put another one in the
I like
Google
it.
Doc. So this is on the spot. So hang on with us. I'm editing the doc as we speak.
This is happening live.
I just thought of one.
Okay. Better reference in the show. Dumbledore or 90210.
Because they did drop a Dumbledore reference.
They
in
love their Harry
2009.
Potter.
They did. Oh, that's tough. See, I didn't get the 90210 reference right away. It didn't occur to me. I went Brandon Routh, for
Oh,
Brandon.
interesting.
Oh.
So I'm gonna say Dumbledore.
Maybe it was Brandon Routh and Brenda Strong.
Oh, maybe. That could make sense.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I was gonna say I'm gonna go Dumbledore because I feel like they've gone like full tilt Harry Potter this season, what with the Dementors and everything. So I felt like it made sense to me. It really connected.
Yeah, the Dementors, the Mirror of Erised. So they've really gone into the Harry Potter aspects. Yeah, I think it made more sense for Dumbledore than the 90210 reference.
I agree. Okay, so for Mark, what's up? Or Glee's Don't Stop Believin', which premiered in May 2009.
Okay, cover your ears because I never watched Glee, so I'm going to go with "What's up?"
What's up?
What's up? Solid. Always a solid commercial. I'm going to go Glee's Don't Stop Believin'. It connects. We have Melissa Benoist, and also it's just a great song. It's a fun karaoke song.
Yeah, I guess if we're going 2009,
Yeah.
I would say Don't Stop Believing.
But you have to admit, however many times Nicole said it, she was having fun with it.
She really was.
She did deliver that at the right obnoxiousness. Is that a word?
I think
Sure.
Obnoxious. That can't be a word.
It's your podcast. Why can't
Yeah,
it be?
sure. Obnoxiousness.
it is now.
Right.
Okay, so we have a set of snap judgments from Anna, who did not like this episode, actually.
She made a point to mention that.
She's not a fan. Okay. Her first snap judgment. What is the worst part about Kenny?
Oh.
Okay. Coming in hot immediately, Anna. I like a strong opening statement. Okay. That he is only alive at the expense of the Danvers sisters' backstory, despite being irrelevant and temporary, or that Kenny is the poorer, less intelligent, and less talented version of Lena, or bonus third option, that Kenny claims to care about Kara, but is only holding her back by expecting a smart Kara not to pursue a great education and instead live with him in a barn that doesn't even have any horses in it. What is the worst part about Kenny?
First.
So the worst part about Kenny. I guess.
Hot.
I mean, we all liked Kenny.
Anna woke up and chose violence this day.
I guess for me, the worst part is maybe him holding Kara back because she was really struggling with that. She had her own goals and dreams, and he should respect that.
Yeah, I find it hard that there was he did make a barn for her that didn't hold any horses, and we know that they're important. But I will say, I think for me the worst part about Kenny, because I like Kenny, is that he's only alive at the expense of the Danvers sisters' backstory, and kind of makes me question the Midvale episode of the show that we know and love. So that's to me the worst part of Kenny, who I think Kenny's a solid pro.
Well, at the risk of if y'all will allow me a shameless plug, I wrote an entire article for Screen Rant that was published today on that very thing, that he was there at the expense of their backstory.
Which is a real shame. I mean, he could be a great character, but
there's a lot of great story potential with him moving on. I love the idea of Kenny showing up in National City and maybe helping Kara recover from the Phantom Zone.
Yeah, it's the bad part about the story is that was a big deal that sort of brought the sisters together, and it was a big deal for Kara and her backstory, and now that's not a thing anymore.
Well, that sets up a question that I guess could be a sort of a snap judgment from me, because I just found that Alex's cavalier, that was old Earth and this is new Earth thing, and all, which and it was such a significant moment, makes me wonder, is this Alex our Earth 38 Alex, or is she the Earth Prime Alex with Earth 38's memories?
Oh, that is tough.
Ooh.
I think she would have to be the Earth Prime version with the Earth 38's memories.
Yeah, I would agree. I think she could access those, like, oh yeah, I know that Kenny died in some other timeline, but he was alive, like,
but
for me.
Think of the storyline they could do is when Kara realizes that this isn't the Alex she grew up with.
Oh.
Ooh.
That could be dramatic. Ooh. But then Alex could say maybe the same thing about Kara. Because Kara was like, Earth Prime Kara was like, I'm working with Lex Luthor. He's a swell guy. I made this DEO commercial with him. So I guess it could go both ways.
There you go. It's a totally Alex Kara episode on Kelly's therapy couch.
A bottle episode just in the therapy room.
There you go.
That's weird that they haven't explored the two.
None of the
two sets of memories.
None of the shows did. The only show that came close was Batwoman.
Oh, really?
It's funny because I feel like Supergirl, out of all the shows, seems the most interested in playing with the differences in post-crisis, but not like interested in getting very deeply into like what the implications of those differences would mean. It feels very like surface, like this person's alive now, or that was pre-crisis, but it's like, yeah, but everything in your life is different. But that's not going to cause anything.
So I guess the snap judgment might be Earth 38 Alex or Earth Prime Alex.
Ooh. I mean, I'm going to go Earth 38. That's the OG.
Yeah, I think I would say Earth 38.
Me too.
That's the Alex who got her way out of a tank only using her pants.
Never forget.
Never forget that she did that.
Hey, and look, she almost stopped a spaceship from leaping across the galaxy.
Yeah.
So good.
So we have another snap judgment from Anna, who, remember, did not like this episode.
It's not playing into what her snap judgments are at all.
No, not at all. It's not influencing. She's not letting it influence. Okay. So second snap judgment. What do you think young Lena was doing during the episode? Sitting alone in her room in complete darkness with just the feeling of hot tears running down her cheek and wondering if she would ever truly feel loved? Or visiting the beach where her mother died. Oh, come on, Anna. I was with you at visiting the beach, and then it went dark. And staring at the water and thinking, why can't I remember the sound of your voice anymore?
That is brutal.
That's tough. Both of those are tough to think about, I think.
The segment's called Snap Judgments, right?
Yeah.
My first reaction to this one from Anna, I'm sorry. I don't care.
Oh,
this is
a hot take.
Also a hot take.
Yeah. This is Supergirl. It was Supergirl's story. It was about Supergirl in her past. it's not the Lena Luthor show.
But the game is you have to pick one.
Yeah. So what do you think Lena's doing at the time? Like, what is young Lena doing? We know she loves horses. We've established this as a baseline. Horses and science, presumably.
I'm going to go with her and the mother. It's the closest thing that makes her human, because I think she believes in her mind that everybody loves her. So
controversial. I'm gonna go with the mother scenario as well, because she's at least on the beach then. Like, they're both really dark, but at least she got out into the sunshine. She's got some. She's feeling the sand beneath her toes as she cries.
This conversation or this topic got me in trouble a while back, and I don't know if I should answer this one.
I forgot.
Rebecca wants to recuse herself from this one.
Hey, what do you say, Morgan? We let her out of this one?
I think you're fine.
I don't know. I
take the fifth, Rebecca. Take the fifth.
We've learned all about it.
I'm gonna pick the mother scenario and not explain it.
There you go.
Good call.
So that is what I'm going with. So that will end our round of snap judgments for this episode. No judgments on your snap judgments. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio about the Supergirl Season 6 episode titled Prom Night. So I think that will do it for all of our listener tweets and emails and snap judgments. Thank you to Donna for joining us in here for that. And I think now we got to get to some plugs. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW's Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and wired. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com, click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
Supergirl Radio, Superman and Lois Radio, The Flash Podcast, and Legends of Tomorrow Podcast, Blacklight and Podcast, Batwoman Podcast 2, and Titans and Doom Patrol Podcast just for you, Justice League Dark Podcast, Green Lantern Podcast, Stargirl Podcast, Strange Adventures Podcast, and finally my favorite of the bunch, DC TV After Dark, where you're allowed to say fuck.
You know, here in Hawaii, they have ukulele lessons. I've been tempted to take one.
Ooh,
but
then you could record like a new theme song for the show.
I've also heard that they pronounce it ukulele. I'm not sure if that's
really. Have we all been pronouncing it wrong this whole time?
Possibly. But yes, thank you to Madeline for that great song of the plugs.
And speaking of the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store, as we just were, it's got some Danvers. I like how my transitions are seamless. It's got some Danvers Sisters designs, including this one from Sarah Louver, aka Comiker Girl.
Yeah, it's about the Danvers Detective Agency. So very fitting for a Danvers Sisters episode. There's actually a sale going on right now in the TeePublic store. So if you're interested in that, you can click on the link in the video description or in the show notes if you're listening to the audio podcast version later on. So we've got some pretty cool stuff there in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store. And we would like to thank our Legion of Super sponsors for supporting the Supergirl Radio Patreon. on. Let me find my graphic here. So we'd like to thank Michael, Sam, Anne-Marie, Grout, Yvonne, Quinn, Jessica, Nicola, Leslie, Abby, Ermgard, Miriam, Cherie, Donna, Nicole, Lizeth, Deb, Susan, and EH. So thank you all for subscribing and supporting our Patreon. Actually, that's the more specific way to say supporting, not subscribing. I'm mixing up my words here. But if you would like to do that, just go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. We have 4 different levels that you can choose from. And that just gives you some extra Supergirl Radio stuff for your week. So you get your regular dose of Supergirl Radio here for free, but then you get some extra bonus material.
Let's get some bonus Supergirl Radio.
I think I'm going to put out a little video from my Hawaii vacations with Flat Supergirl. So you'll get to see some of that. Flat Supergirl has actually, I could pull up some of her adventures. She's been enjoying her Hawaiian vacation.
Oh my gosh, look at her. Is that a rainbow behind her?
Spoiler alert, I put that in post.
I thought she just hoped really hard for it. And it appeared.
I added a rainbow. There are lots of rainbows here in Hawaii, just not in this specific shot. But so she was hanging out in Hawaii. Do I have my time? I also visited Dallas and went to the Zack Snyder's Justice League exhibit there at the AT&T headquarters. So Flat Supergirl encountered Henry Cavill Superman. So she's been having a great vacation.
She was like, "Hey, cuz, you're so tall."
Fun fact, while I was there, I got approached by an AT&T employee who I guess was in charge of the social media stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if she's going to post a picture of me from the HBO or HBO Max or the AT&T account of me visiting. Because
really,
she asked me about me being a podcaster about Supergirl and why I liked the movies and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, sure.
That's really cool. So you had the opportunity to get us those HBO Max dollars, Rebecca. You should have started hustling. You were like, actually, we here at Supergirl Radio, we love HBO Max, and you're fine programming.
So keep your eye out on the HBO Max or AT&T Discovery District accounts, and just see if I pop up. I don't know. She said she would tag Supergirl Radio, so we'll see if that happens. I did, I think, connect with her on LinkedIn. So, nice. I mean, there is a possibility. Hey. There is a possibility.
Let's put that out into the universe.
We will gladly promote HBO Max and the wonderful content that is on that platform.
Wonderful content. We will accept any money that they are willing to support this podcast with. Speaking about our Flat Supergirl and all of her wonderful adventures she's gone on so far, if you want to take part in the Flat Supergirl photography contest, all you have to do to enter is download and print the Flat Supergirl image, which you can find in the video description of this live stream in the show notes of the audio podcast or at the right side of supergirlradio.com. Then you just cut out Flat Supergirl. Then you attach with some tape or glue the cut out image to a popsicle stick, a pen, or a pencil, and then just get creative and take Flat Supergirl anywhere you want. It can be a selfie, or you could take Flat Supergirl to the beach. You can take Flat Supergirl to a city. You can take Flat Supergirl to a field. Anywhere. You can let Flat Supergirl take the grass. Anything that Flat Supergirl wants to do, you can take Flat Supergirl along with you because she's not that big. So she folds up pretty well into any kind of carrying case. And then when you take Flat Supergirl, just post a picture, as many as you'd like, to Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and tag at Supergirl Radio, and then use the hashtag Supergirl Adventures. Hashtag Supergirl Adventures.
Yeah, so if you'd like to participate, please do. You can enter as many times as you would like. So submit any and all pictures that you would like, and we'd love to see your submissions because it's been fun to see where Supergirl is going and what she's doing. So, and there is a TBD deadline for that. So we don't know when the finale of Supergirl is happening. So it could be months from now. So you've got a lot of time.
So you might have a ton of time, or not as much time. We just don't know is the thing. That's the fun part about this contest, the not knowing.
So please submit if you would like to contribute. Well, if you would like to follow me and my adventures that I'm going on, you can check me out at Instagram at the Derby Kid. I'm trying to post some Hawaii pictures when I get them. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/duckmilkprod. I'm also a contributor to Justice League Universe podcast. So if you would like to, I guess, sort of hear my thoughts, it's sort of a collaborative effort. So it's not just my thoughts, but you can check out my thoughts on the DC films there. And I'm also a voice on The Fakest, which is a how does Bill refer to it? A sketch comedy podcast,
I believe.
So it's in its final season. So it's about to wrap up. So go to thefakest.com and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And Morgan is also a voice on The Fakest. So you can hear both of us there.
I get to do some voice acting, a thing I've never done before, and that I'm pretty medium at. But I feel like Bill is a very good voice actor director. And really gets the best out of you. And so
yes.
I think, and it's a wacky season, this one. It's always fun. It's always crazy stuff happening on The Fakest. It's a very funny show. So you should definitely check that out.
There's a lot of comedy, but it gets dramatic.
It does. There's some big things happening there. It's the last season. I think everything's going to blow up at the end.
Going out with a real bang.
Yeah, for real.
Literally.
You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic. You can follow my cats on Instagram. They're at the Lab Cats on Instagram. Today was our adoptiversary, actually. I looked at it on my phone and I was like, oh, we've had the cats for a year. So I went back in time and I found like the babiest baby pictures of them, and I just posted it literally anywhere you could possibly want to see on any social media platform. So just go to anything of me and you'll see baby cat pictures. So that's fun. I'm luring you in with baby cat pictures. You can also find me as a co-host on DC TV After Dark. And you can find me as a co-host on the Legends of Tomorrow podcast. So we just released on Legends a quick synopsis of season 5. So Amy did what she referred to as a Rebecca-like document. Ooh. Where she put we put in some work, aka she did it. She did all of it. So it was very Rebecca-like in that aspect, where I showed up and was like, "Oh, look at this doc."
That's high praise. Thank you, Amy.
So we did a top 10 list of things that you might want to know about season 5 of Legends, in case you forgot, because it was a whole year ago, and we forgot almost all of those things. And so we discovered it as we read along. Oh, remember Bayrod? Remember all this stuff? Sarah was blind for some time? What?
I even remember that. And I don't even watch the show.
Well, you do listen to our podcast, so you have better memories than us. So in case you, like us, forgot a lot of things that happened in season 5, we kind of distilled down like the major things that you probably want to remember going into season 6, which starts this weekend. So we also, right before our regular season starts, we're going to have an interview with Kelly Quinlan, who is the author of She Drives Me Crazy, which came out last week, but also was the book that we did for our book club, Her Name in the Sky. So that's going to be basically the final hiatus episode, our hiatus swan song, until, I don't know if Legends is going on a hiatus. And then we're going to get into podcasting about the TV show, a thing we don't remember how to do anymore. So wish us luck. It's weird, right?
Hopefully your season on Legends will just be a full season. And that would
be great. It just continues on, like just starts and then it ends, and then that's the whole thing.
I'm a little jealous. That must be nice.
It does feel like it will be nice. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon.
And remember, if you have trouble coping, just sing your favorite Dolly Parton song. I think the CW, you're just trying to win the time slot war with Supergirl Radio.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Is Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. It's so fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.